What's going on there, Twitch and YouTube world? Welcome to part 3. Off the grid. Is it fun? Or is it a fraud? Well, let's dive in a little bit more. As you all know, on a month-to-month basis, I like to share my thoughts with you and the overall state of the game that we're playing. A couple days ago, we were graced with an update. Finally, after 8,456 years, some things have changed. And I'm going to be pretty honest with you folks. It's a pretty lackluster patch, but it's still good. It doesn't have anything on what we were able to experience in the past, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. But let's start off with the updates, take a look what has changed, and I'd love to share with you my thoughts that I think many other experienced players share the same feelings on. So, first and foremost, we have our patch notes that are opened up here, and of course I like to view these from the Discord as it has a much easier viewing / digestible experience. And it immediately kicks off with Cyberlimbs. So I know the community was bursting with excitement to see that being the top section of our patch notes. First things first, we have the Ripper, which has now standardized damage across all rarities to 350 damage. They've adjusted the cooldowns for common down from 30 to 25, uncommon from 30 to 25, rare from 25 to 20, epic has now been reduced from 20 to 15. Improved accuracy and hit registration. So I'm going to share my thoughts a little bit towards the end, but we got a few more things to go ahead and read through. The second thing that has changed is the bounce bomber. You know, that limb that was breaking the game for about a month and a half. I told you, didn't I? Now, the pull mechanic adjustments. The outer zone will have a weaker pull, allowing more time to react. Strength to increases closer to the bomb. And then the inner zone has a stronger pull, making escape difficult and almost guaranteeing a draw to the epic center. Cyberlimb interactions with the bounce bomber. Ripper, Slamfist, and Hookshot will experience simultaneous pull and dash / grapple forces. Leapers, Hammerheads, Roadrunners suffer reduced jump / sprint effectiveness under pull effects. The pull animation. Players without active Cyberlimbs experiencing staggering, sliding, and gradual acceleration towards the center. If a player is activated mid-pull, its movement overrides the pull animation. Drone interaction. Buzzkilla and recon drones within the blast radius are pulled in and detonated. Phosphor Fury is going to be the third entry, and we got a couple fixes here where they have fixed movement replication issues and fixed fire propagation failing to spawn due to projectile collision. Following this, or furthermore, we have UI where they fixed voice chat widget exceeding screen borders for long usernames, improved clarity when swapping to a pistol in the weapons panel, updated the UI hero banner lineup lighting, and updated multiple hero poses. Okay. Couple various fixes, and then we can bring things home. We fixed a bug causing characters to get stuck in the left shoulder state after multiple switches, and fixed collision issues in OCO where players might get stuck in the floor. That pretty much wraps things up. All right. What are my thoughts? Well, first things first, there's a lot of people who I think have mixed feelings about the Ripper Cyberlimb. Is it a buff? Is it a nerf? And to be honest with you, it's kind of right in the middle. And after pretty much playing from dusk till dawn yesterday, my final answer is it's in a good place. It is a buff, all right? And you might be saying, no, dude, it's a nerf. Well, if you were paying attention in Discord in the weeks before, the devs had clearly said that they had brought down the damage to 300 for testing purposes, and they were waiting for everything to go live in the upcoming patch. So we were already noticing the damage ratio being a little bit lower, and now it is at 350. Okay, so that is a plus. Then we see cooldown adjustments that make it available to use more frequently. That is a plus. And last but not least, improved aiming accuracy and hit registration. That is a plus. Now, with 3 pluses, you might be like, whoa, that's a buff, man. But throughout my personal experiences of testing this and using it regularly, you are no longer getting those instant one-hit taps. And if you are, it likely has to do with you pre-firing your opponent or just bringing them down or catching them out of position at a lower health without any armor. Which, in that situation, it makes sense for the limb to have that feeling of being a one-hitter quitter. However, if you were to get into a lot of your exchanges now, what usually happens is you slash somebody, they lose a few plates and some health, and their arm and gun still tend to fall off. I've seen it about actually 50-50 ratio on whether or not the gun slash arm falls off. You kind of get one or the other, and sometimes you get both, which I think is really, really cool. Now, the number one problem that made Ripper so annoying was after people slashed you, you kind of were stuck in this state where you couldn't do anything, right? There was about 1.2 seconds of just immobility that made it very, very frustrating for you to be able to fight back. Now, honestly, you can escape. And I think this is a game changer. Multiple times yesterday, I got ripped by other players, and I was able to immediately leap her out of the situation or slap my roadrunners and get the hell out of town. This was something that seemed impossible before. I do feel like there is kind of a slight delay in the animation still that can kind of make things a little bit hard in terms of, can I fight back? Can I retaliate? But you can escape. And I think being able to reposition and get out of that shitty situation is more important than the ability to fight back. Truthfully, folks, I don't really think just the nature of the limb that it is something that can truly, truly be nerfed. It's always going to have a very high just power ratio in comparison to some of the other limbs in the game. But I think it's in a really good spot. I'm not going to be in Discord whining about Ripper Limb any further. I think this is as good as it's going to get. Very similar to Phosphor Fury, like there's a lot of weirdos out there still crying about Phosphor Fury, but it's a high power ratio limb, right? Remember those, in my last video, I talked about how there's tactical limbs and there's offensive limbs. And the offensive limbs are always going to be relatively powerful. It's whether or not can you outplay the limb in some way. Ripper is escapable. Phosphor Fury means you need to keep moving. If you're getting bombed trying to pick up a friend at a buyback station or trying to pick up a loadout, that's on you. Maybe you should move around as much as possible and find that open opportunity to do those things where you are going to be standing still. And if you get hit, you get hit. It's just the nature of the game. That's like, if I were to give an analogy or a comparison, it's like complaining about a sniper rifle. Oh my God, I got sniped. It's unfair. Well, if you're standing still, you're going to get sniped. In which case, Phosphor Fury, you're standing still, you're going to get popped. Way it goes, folks. Bounce Bomber. Thank you, devs. Now, this is going to be a two-way piece of feedback because, honestly, this is a fantastic update. They are very easy to get out of. If you're already proactively using your Roadrunners or using your Leapers, you're going to be able to get out of dodge. You're also able to take relatively good just spammers of this who aren't skilled at using the limb and get out of dodge. Now, for the folks who can still hit you center mass, and just to read this back in the patch notes, it says, inner zone, stronger pull, making escape difficult and almost guaranteeing to draw to the epic center. So it basically is saying, you're fucked, all right? If you get hit center mass by one of these things, it is very likely for you to get smacked. And that does mean the trip mine meta is going to be out of control. There's going to be a lot of players using what we call supernova, where they're just going to try and hit you with one of these, center mass, and stick a trip mine on your nutsack, which is just really frustrating to deal with. And I am going to talk about trip mines here towards the end, but just a couple more thoughts on the bounce bomber. I do think this update is good because, like I mentioned with the Ripper, it's escapable, it's outplayable, you were able to survive. Whereas before, it seemed like any player that had a brain and a controller or a mouse was able to just launch these things at you and pretty much guaranteed a kill. Now, my problem with this limb is it is still spammable. This limb is never going to be sufficient at being able to shoot 3 charges. If you are caught off guard, or maybe you're in a situation where you do not have legs, you're a dead man. There's no getting out of this, period. And with that being said, it still is teetering that edge of being what I would call, well, a 1-hit, but 3-hit limb, right? But we all know it takes just like 1.2 seconds to go dunk, dunk, dunk. And now you have 3 of those going straight to you, and then they're going to detonate and you have nowhere to go. So that's just something I think that needs a little bit further looking into. But I'm very happy with where things are at. It's very outplayable, whereas before you just had no chance. And I know I've said that over and over, but I just kind of want to make sure that that key point gets to the right players who were really frustrated with this limb. So devs, great job. This is, like I said, it's a 6 out of 10 patch, but you're finally getting it. And things are headed in the right direction. Now, when we take a look at Phosphor Fury, I already touched on that, so we're going to move forward to the UI stuff, right? They fixed a voice chat widget exceeding screen borders, long usernames, improved clarity when swapping to a pistol in the weapons panel, some UI hero banner lineup lighting, and updated multiple hero poses. My feedback for you is you keep updating a bunch of stuff that honestly nobody even noticed, right? When you think about early Apex or early Call of Duty, when people were still falling through the map, speaking of falling through the map, but when people were having these kinds of issues, they were still playing your game or those games at a very high level, right? They were addicted. And it goes to show you that when everything else outside of those small little tweaks and fixes is going really, really, really well, people are able to kind of distract themselves, right? They get in this tunnel and they just have a good time. And I encourage the devs to kind of consider this particular approach. Now, you definitely need to fix these weird ass holes that have magically appeared in your game. You know, the ones over in the front edge of Ocio as you're starting to head over to Stork City. Fix that shit. They weren't there before, and now they are. And you know what's crazy? I literally lost a game the other day by accidentally running into this invisible pit that I could not get out of. Or if they are going to be there, I don't know, build something around them. Put like a weird sign that says don't slip and make it look like a crater. All right, I just think that's a really silly bug to be experiencing in 2025, but I get it. We're in early access. But when I see other shit like, you know, the lighting behind a hero banner, nobody cares about that. They really, really, really don't. You know, a couple of videos back, I opened up, I had a notepad, and let me see if I can find it, actually. I had a notepad where I just kind of brought up some ideas on, you know, what can we change about the game? And I think right now, the main frustration for majority of the community is like, we don't feel heard. I don't think you're doing a good job at making sure the community is being listened to and that their feedback is being taken seriously. You know, I feel like I went into like a department store or something and asked if I could get some help, and then somebody was like, sure, and then they wandered off, came back in like 2 seconds and were like, yeah, it's out of stock. What? Did you even look? And that's how I feel about your devs and moderators in Discord. They're like, we'll submit your feedback, man. We'll swing it up the chain. And I feel like you just ain't reading that shit. Now, here's my list from the last video. I talked about us fixing trip miners, fixing Ripper, fixing audio issues, fixing major FPS dips sporadically, bring back solo queue, bring custom matches into the game, bring some form of SBMM or just skill-based matchmaking that will probably be in the form of like a ranked mode. Make flying great again. You know, it still feels really sluggish. And if you are going to full send and full commit to aim assist staying where it's at, you need to give us full speed movement again as PC players. So we have a shot against these folks using an M4 with their laser beam assistance. And last but not least, something that has definitely been flooding all of your channels, the ability to invite your friends from Xbox, PlayStation, and whatever platform they might be on. It makes no sense to me that you could have a game that lets everybody play together from these platforms, but they don't have the ability to invite and create groups together from these platforms. And it's just going to, in my opinion, it's going to conflate. It's going to further the division of players. You know, when you look at team rosters right now, they have to do PC roster and a console roster. And in my eyes, it should just be a roster. You know, like Apex Legends, they didn't say this guy's on this and this guy's on that. It was a roster. Even though we all know as time, moved forward, the predominant player base all was pretty much on controller, and you've already kind of shown that this game is going to be the same way, right? The predominant player base is going to be geared towards controller because you want to keep aim assist where it's at, and I understand that. And I'm at a point now where I'm not making any more videos. I'm not posting any more crap in Discord about it because you all don't care, and I think we're all kind of numb to it as the mouse and keyboard player base right now. Or we're just making our switch to controller so we can compete and also have that insane advantage of shooting people either while we're in the air fighting or when somebody flies over us. There's an advantage there, period. But when you're fixing stupid stuff like lighting or clarity between swapping a pistol and the weapons panel and things like that, I just think that stuff's very minute. And it almost seems pointless to add. It's like they're looking at the patch notes and they go, this is too little, and it's going to piss people off that there's so little, and you're just finding weird little tweaks to add to the list. So I don't know, do better. What I would say, my ultimate piece of feedback, and I'm gonna hop into the general chat real quick because I know I'm not the only one who feels this way, right? And I was cracking up from Wimps today because, man, he's just been in the kitchen cooking. Communication, it's really not that hard. It's really not. I can open up WordPad right now, and if I was one of your PR folks from Off the Grid, I could jot down something extremely professional. Like greetings and salutations there, Zeros. Thank you so much for your love and support. We really appreciate the ongoing feedback that has been pouring in by the bucket loads. And thank you to everybody in Discord who's been using the Cyberlimbs and weapons and so on channels. Here's what we would like to let you know. First things first, we made some changes. Make sure you take a look at the patch notes from last week. And we have some upcoming changes that need a lot more time and a lot more testing. And we want to let you know what's going on, right? i.e., you're working on trip mines. i.e., you're working on bringing back solos. i.e., you're working on bringing in the Battle Royale mode. And for some reason, that's like rocket science for you and your team. And that is why you get so much shit thrown in your direction and you just get flack over and over and over. Like, I actually feel bad because the main people who have to deal with this feedback aren't even employees. They're community fans who are passionate about your game and are doing their best to moderate these social channels. And it's almost unfair to them that you are incapable of just communicating. It really is that simple. You need to treat your player base like a relationship, right? And if you want your relationship in anything, whether it's personal, professional, romantic, whatever it might be, you got to communicate. And it's just something that you're not doing really well right now. You just kind of sporadically make these changes, you make these updates. They're extremely lackluster, and everyone's supposed to just be happy about it. And then to make matters worse, you got these like 5 or 6 fanboys in your socials who just like think that if they put on a cape and simp for your game, it's going to solve anything. And truthfully, it just causes more arguments and frustration in the Discord that, again, those devs and moderators continuously have to moderate, which is just unfortunate. So you can see people right now are a little heated about the battle pass. You get these hilarious videos. Yes. Like, people are just so fed up with the really bad information that's coming out. I also think it's advisable for you mods to just don't say stuff anymore, because you're adding fuel to the fire. When you say things like it's coming out tomorrow, and then people end up going in game and seeing that it's not coming out tomorrow. It's hilarious. I had so many people who I was gaming with yesterday, and they were like, dude, aren't you just so excited for the new patch notes that are coming out? And I'm like, they're gonna be all right. I wouldn't get your hopes up. And they said, aren't you so excited that the battle pass is gonna be changed? And I said, why? Because it says 1 day remaining? And they're like, yeah, man, that means it's coming out tomorrow. And I already knew better. I already knew that that was complete cap, because the last time it was complete cap. In fact, the last time it said on 2 days and then turned into 42 days remaining, just, overnight. Because you wanted to extend the battle pass for all these people who felt like they just didn't have enough time. That's nobody's fault but yours. And if the game wasn't interesting, sure, maybe it is to some degree on the development team, but you weren't playing, thus you do not get the rewards. When this game hits mainnet, which is something that was expected to be announced this week, you need to start holding true to some of those things, because every item in your game, especially to a lot of folks interested in crypto, has value, and you need to respect how people approach value. If a brand new 5090 released and I go wait in line at Micro Center at 6 in the morning to get it, I put in the work to get first dibs. And then the guy who comes a little bit later in the afternoon, it's 5 p.m., the store's about to close, he can't get angry that there's no more 5090s in stock. It's the same thing with the battle pass. You came late, you didn't put your time in to play it, you don't get to reap the rewards of these items that are going to have a pretty high value in the game's marketplace. So that's just some food for thought. If you thought I was going to come in here and try and defend you folks who are always like, give me more time, no, you should have been playing the game. And as somebody who has barely been playing, like you all know, I've been telling you, I've been hooked on Marvel Rivals. I was able to finish the battle pass with ease. And the fact that they give you, just like in Call of Duty or Apex, these daily, weekly, or monthly abilities to increase your overall XP gains, it's not that hard, right? If we look at it, they're right up here, available to you. Take advantage of them, man. Take advantage of them. The battle pass was truthfully, in my opinion, easier than it was last time, because there was less, right? You had like 6 branches that you had to finish, whereas this one was just 9, right? 333, and you got that thing knocked out of there. It really didn't take too much time. But my advice to the devs is that you got to do a better job at communicating, right? Your communication is trashing your player base right now. Your PR team is not a good PR team. Okay. I've worked in business for a very long time. I used to do training and development before I got into IT. And one of the things that I had to do was make sure that my communication was on point. My ability to set expectations and inform people what's coming out or coming down the pipeline was on point. Because when you do not do those things, people get angry and you do not get positive reception. And truthfully, that's why you're experiencing what you're experiencing right now. Like going back to the Discord, I like this meme right here. Right, this thing is just fire. Right, it's so good. And I want you to just sit and think about, as a development team, as a studio, is this the image we want to have? I can only think of a handful of studios who took the kind of approach that you're taking, and well, people had a lot of frustration with those games. I feel like it's Tarkov all over again. The difference with Tarkov, or maybe like Face Punch when Rust first came out, is they had a pair of balls and they came out and pretty much told everybody, shut the fuck up. It's our game and we don't care. You get what you get. But instead of doing that, or flipping it the opposite way and taking the advice I gave you earlier, you don't say anything. So I guess leaving your community in the dark is the best approach for you. So you keep doing what you do, Gunzilla, and see if it garners some positive results. My final thoughts for this particular game right now is balance is something that can always be worked on. But I do think your limbs need to be priority number one, especially because you as a development team said you want the game to focus around the limbs. I think Bounce Bomber needs to be reduced to probably 2 shots instead of 3. I think Ripper is actually in a pretty good spot. I think Trip Mines absolutely need to be nerfed to the floor. How hard is it to make it incapable for a mine to stick to a player model? And if it is incapable or you don't know how to do it, you got to reduce the damage, because the fact that it is going to be a one-hit kill every single time means that everybody's just going to be running around trying to toss some type of trip mine on someone's nutsack and get the free kill. That is not skill, right? And what people want to experience while playing any sort of competitive shooter is a chance to fight back, a chance to have won the fight. And I know there's a lot of players who are way up in the fight. Like, they are destroying their opponent. They're chasing them down because you already have so much mobility in the game. And they finally catch up to their target. They're about to win, and boom, fight's over, and they lose. That's frustrating. I wouldn't want to play a game like that. And if it was a newer player, I wouldn't want to introduce my friend to a game like that. So fix the last remaining one-hitter quitter you have in the game. And don't make us wait 2 months for it, leaving us in radio silence. And if you are going to make us wait 2 months for it, communicate that. That's it. Just announce something. Put something out, man. It can't be that hard. It has to be easier than developing the game. Okay? Just hire somebody and communicate. All right? I think that you need to think about bringing up some of the other limbs that are kind of slept on. I think for Slam Fist, you can increase the distance that it offers to you so you can get across the map better. I think maybe adding another charge to Hammerheads might increase its viability, or maybe you can increase the speed that it's traveling in the air to increase its viability. There's got to be something you can do to make that limb very valuable to people. Otherwise, it's going to continue to be a 2-limb meta. And let's just call it what it is. It's kind of a 1-leg limb meta right now because Roadrunners is just so good. I would add one more charge to your leapers. I think leapers are in a great spot. They're incredibly viable, but I just think they're very easy to get caught running out of, especially in hyper gunplay situations where you're trying to keep yourself alive, especially with things like Bounce Bomber and Trip Mines all over the place. Leapers is one of the better items, but you run out of charges and you realize, oh shit, I'm dead in the water. And it makes people feel like they have no choice but to use something like grapple hook or hook shot, to be able to get out of those situations. So just, consider that, fix that. I think we'll get some good results. I think Slugger is one of the most unused limbs possible. Maybe you need to add another charge and increase the velocity of that thing. Maybe just increase the velocity and increase the range of it, so people can get a lot more value out of it. And otherwise, they're just they're not going to use it. Um, what else do we got? I think maybe when it comes to skunk paw, for example, you need to consider just make that thing fuck shit up, man. Like make that thing tick faster. Increase the damage ratio on it because otherwise it's kind of a pointless limb. Or you need to make it an actual texture blocker so aim assist gets cut off, right? That's something that other games do really good with their like smoke grenades, and that helps kind of create that competitive edge. You know, think about Apex Legends. The reason why Bangalore was a must have and so valuable was when the smoke dispersed, the controller players were finally at a disadvantage. So I know that's just my suggestion for you. Javelinas, they're honestly in a good spot. I just think they're outshined right now by Phosphor Fury and Trip Mines. I'd rather have a one-hit limb than a shield cracking limb. And I think Kinetic Shield is always going to be in the spot that it's in. There's not a whole lot more that you can do. But Buzz Killer, I think Buzz Killers are fine. It's always going to be that kind of limb. I think Paralyzer needs love again. I think you might have over nerfed it with over tuning some of the other limbs. So I would like to see Paralyzer get a cooldown reduction. Like it sucks to like use it and then shoot the dart and be pretty much fried for the next minute. Meanwhile, somebody can pop 3 recons in the amount of time it takes me to be able to use one Paralyzer. There's something off with that ratio. And hey, you know what? While we're on the topic, maybe you just nerf recon. Why does recon get to be used so often? Is it really your goal to give people wall hacks? Like, is that what you want the game to be? Because if so, then fine. I guess leave it the way it is. But my advice to you is you need to nerf the recon, and then maybe you don't have to touch Paralyzer. But anything that gives people data is always going to be a huge advantage. Ghost, great limb, perfectly balanced. I really don't have anything to say about it. Last but not least, and I'm not going to give suggestions, otherwise this video is going to be freaking 1 hour long. Start thinking about changing up the gun meta. Start tweaking guns. Hell, I would rather see you just start tweaking guns and not communicate that so we just kind of get some variety in the game. It can't be Tacoma, M4, Influencer, Shotgun, and the Kestrel forever. It just can't. You got make the M4 get out, make the burst gun one of the best guns in the meta on this upcoming patch. Bring back the kite, right? Make the kite great again in this patch. Make another pistol better than the 227 in this next patch. Just like spice it up, man. Otherwise, it's just going to be what we're going on 6 months now. It's just going to be 6 months of an extremely stale, boring, and repetitive update / patched game. I'd like to see some risks taken. I'd like to see some communication given, and I think you're going to have a lot more success ahead of you. I think the game is in a 6 out of 10 state right now. I'm back. I'm playing full time again, and I'm enjoying it. But you know, it's only right to give fair and honest feedback to really help you take your game to the next level. I'd like to see a lot of those more feature enrichment or just quality of life updates coming, and communicate to us if they're not. Let people know if you're even working on trying to bring PS5, PC, and Xbox together. Let people know if you're working on bringing the Battle Royale mode. Let people know if you're working on the solos game mode. You know, that type of communication is going to have people experience a sense of hope, and they will not want to quit the game because you'd be surprised the power of hope when you give it to people. So mix it up. Start getting more creative with your appearance things. I'd like to see more weapon skins. You know, I don't want to have weird swirly flame skins for 6 months straight. I would even take more colors. Hell, just put more colors in the game. Make it so we can spray paint our limbs, man. I think that would be really, really cool. This stuff to me just doesn't seem like rocket science. These are small wins that can be implemented into the game early and will allow you to spend more time on that heavy, long hour development phase type stuff You know, if it's easy, push it out. But if it's hard, communicate what you're doing so we understand what the delays might be. And last but not least, stop saying stuff that is inaccurate, or at least tell your devs that, because you set false expectations and then people get stuff like this, right? You get stuff like this, where this says I have 1 day remaining, and then I log in the next day, and it turns out to be 2 days remaining. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't even believe you when you say you got 2 days remaining. I guess you can make me a believer or a disbeliever. But that's all we got, folks. And I want to say thank you to anybody who stopped by. And if you've been dropping into the videos, if you like what you see, subscribe to me, maybe throw the video a like along the way, and share your thoughts in the comments section. I'd really like to know what folks are thinking about right now. What is it that you want to see from the development team of Off the Grid, or what is it you would like to see changed in general? Until next time, folks, peace, love, and happiness. Y'all be easy.